Most people think impossible goals happen because of luck, raw talent, or a moment of chaos. But that belief is exactly why these goals feel impossible in the first place. The truth is, every impossible goal is planned, not the shot itself, but the conditions that make the shot unavoidable. Long before the ball hits the net, the defense has already lost. They just don't know it yet. Today, I'm breaking down how impossible goals are actually scored, using tactics, structure, and decision-making, not magic. And once you understand this, you'll never watch football the same way again. The biggest illusion in football is that goals are created at the moment of the finish. They're not. Goals are created when space appears, and space never appears by accident. It's manufactured. When a striker scores surrounded by defenders, what you're really seeing is a defensive system that was broken seconds earlier. The defenders aren't slow, they're late to a problem they didn't realize existed. This usually starts with off-ball movement. One attacker drags a defender away without touching the ball. Another stays still to pin his marker. A third arrives late, unseen. Defenders are taught to track the ball, but elite attacks target attention, not positioning. When defenders look at the ball, they stop seeing the threat. Fullbacks stepping into midfield, wingers holding extreme width, midfielders rotating positions. These movements aren't random. They force defenders into impossible choices. Step out and leave space behind, or hold position and allow progression. Impossible goals are created when defenders are forced to choose between two bad options. Timing is everything. The pass isn't played when the runner starts moving, it's played when the defender turns his head. Elite players scan constantly, waiting for that half-second lapse in awareness. That's why goals often look sudden. They aren't rushed. They're delayed on purpose. Then there's body orientation. Defenders position themselves to block obvious threats, but modern attacks exploit blind sides. Attackers position themselves just outside a defender's field of vision. When the ball moves, it's already too late. The phrase, "he came from nowhere," is misleading. He came from the blind side, exactly where the defense couldn't see him. Impossible goals feel unfair because they don't beat defenders physically. They beat them mentally. By the time the shot happens, the outcome is already locked in. Now let's go deeper, because the most impossible goals don't happen in open chaos. They happen against organized, disciplined defenses. This is where structure becomes the real weapon. Elite teams don't attack randomly. They repeat patterns until defenders feel safe, then they break them once. This is called pattern manipulation. A team circulates the ball the same way again and again. Side to side. Safe passes. Nothing dangerous. The defense shifts as trained. Then, at the exact moment the defense steps forward together, the pattern changes. A vertical pass. A third-man run. A sudden overload. The defense reacts correctly, and still gets punished. Third-man runs are one of the most common sources of impossible goals. The first pass attracts pressure. The second pass releases it. The third movement kills the defense. The runner doesn't receive the ball where he started. He receives it where the defense just vacated. Vertical compactness is another trap. Defenses stay tight between lines to deny space. Attacks exploit this by stretching vertically. One attacker pins the back line. Another drops deep. The distance between defenders grows just enough to create a pocket. That pocket is where impossible goals are born. Overloads work the same way. When teams overload one side, it's not always to attack there. Sometimes it's to force the defense to shift, then switch instantly. The far side attacker receives the ball with space, but the defense is already running backward. The shot looks unstoppable because it was created before the ball arrived. Tempo manipulation is critical here. Elite teams slow the game deliberately. Sideways passes lull defenders into comfort. Then, in one touch, the tempo explodes. That sudden change breaks structure. Impossible goals often come right after moments where nothing seemed to be happening. Even long-range goals follow this logic. Defenders retreat instead of stepping out. Their balance shifts backward. The shooter recognizes instability and strikes. The goal looks outrageous, but tactically, it was inevitable. At the highest level, football is about systems versus systems. Impossible goals are simply moments where one system collapses. Now let's talk about individuals, because tactics don't remove creativity, they amplify it. The most dangerous players aren't just skilled. They're intelligent movers. They understand where defenders expect them to be, and they choose to be somewhere else. False movements are a perfect example. A striker drops toward the ball, dragging center-backs with him. He doesn't want the pass. He wants the space behind him. The winger attacks that space. The defense reacts to the wrong threat. The goal looks impossible because the real action happened off the ball. Midfielders are the architects of these moments. The best ones don't hunt assists, they hunt reactions. A sideways pass can force a defender to step out. That single step opens a lane. The next pass destroys the block. Impossible goals often come from the second or third action, not the first. Pressing also plays a huge role. High pressing isn't just defensive, it's offensive. When teams press aggressively, they force opponents into predictable exits. Once possession is won, the defense is already disorganized. The goal feels sudden because the chaos was planned. Body language is another weapon. Players disguise passes with their posture. They shape to play wide, then slip the ball inside. Defenders read hips, not intentions. That's why elite playmakers freeze defenders. The pass wasn't fast, the decision came too late. Spacing between attackers matters more than people realize. Too close, and one defender can cover both. Too far, and combinations break down. Impossible goals come from perfect spacing, close enough to connect, far enough to stretch. This is why highlight clips lie. They show the finish, not the structure. They show brilliance, not the preparation. Once you understand the tactics, impossible goals stop feeling lucky and start feeling logical. Now let's look at defensive errors, not individual mistakes, but systemic ones. Most impossible goals aren't caused by a bad tackle or missed clearance. They're caused by hesitation. Defenses rely on synchronization. Step together, drop together, press together. When one player hesitates, the entire structure collapses. Attacks are designed to force that hesitation. This often happens when defenders are overloaded mentally. Multiple runners. Rotations. Late arrivals. The defender doesn't know who to track. That moment of uncertainty is fatal. Zonal marking can be exploited this way. When attackers move across zones instead of into them, defenders hesitate between passing runners on or following them. That hesitation creates shooting windows that shouldn't exist. Transitions are especially dangerous. When possession changes, defensive shape disappears. Impossible goals often come within seconds of regaining the ball because the defense hasn't reset. Players are still thinking about attack when they should be defending. Set pieces deserve special mention. The best set-piece goals aren't about delivery, they're about deception. Blocks, decoy runs, delayed movements. The shot looks uncontested because the defense was manipulated before the ball was struck. Fatigue also plays a role. Late in matches, defenders react instead of anticipate. Attacks exploit this by increasing tempo at the right moment. Impossible goals often arrive when legs are tired and minds are slower. Now here's the key idea that ties everything together. Impossible goals are not moments of chaos. They are moments of clarity for the attacker and confusion for the defender. The attacker sees a solution. The defender sees too many problems. Once you understand this, football changes. You stop watching the ball and start watching space. You stop blaming defenders and start questioning structure. You realize that the most spectacular goals are often the most rehearsed. So the next time you see a goal that makes no sense, a volley through traffic, a cutback no one tracked, a shot no one closed down, don't ask how it went in. Ask why the defense had no answer. Because impossible goals aren't accidents. They're tactical checkmates. And once you see the board, you'll always see the move coming, even when everyone else doesn't. If you made it this far, you already see football differently. You're not just watching goals anymore, you're seeing the movements before them, the space being created, and the decisions that force defenses to collapse. That's the difference between watching football and understanding it. This channel exists for people who want more than highlights. If you want to learn how tactics shape every goal, every press, and every mistake, make sure you subscribe. New breakdowns drop regularly, and each one will change the way you watch the game. If this video helped you, like it, not for the algorithm, but so more people who care about football intelligence actually see it. And if there's a goal, a team, or a tactical pattern you want broken down next, drop it in the comments. I read them. Because football isn't chaos. It's a system. And once you understand the system, nothing looks impossible anymore.